This is the symptom that had me fully convinced that I was pregnant because it came completely out of left field for me 3 or 4 days after we conceived, and I saw it and I said to my husband, I'm pregnant. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Beth. I make all kinds of motherhood and lifestyle videos here on YouTube. And today we're gonna be talking all about the 2-week wait before getting a positive pregnancy test. Right now, I am in my 3rd pregnancy and I was very certain that I was pregnant before I took the test. I actually delayed it for so long because I was like, I already know. And so I wanted to sit down and make a video all about what those symptoms were for me. In my first 2 pregnancies, I feel like I wasn't as confident during that wait as to what the symptoms of pregnancy were for me specifically. And both times I definitely thought it was my period that was coming, but this time I knew, like, without a shadow of a doubt, that it was pregnancy. So in this video, we're going to have a very casual sit down girl chat. We're going to talk all about pregnancy symptoms together and birth control and the method that I use and the tools that I use to do that as well. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, then grab your cup of coffee and just keep on watching. Right now, I am currently 16 weeks pregnant. I found out on August 26th of this past summer that we were expecting again, and I have a record in my phone of everything that was kind of happening during that 2-week window. It was funny because August 18 is my husband and I's wedding anniversary, and I was supposed to get my period that weekend. We were going to be going away for the first time since we had kids on like a weekend getaway together. Of course, my period is slotted to come that weekend, but I said to Jared before that point, I feel like there's a chance that I could be pregnant. And it was kind of this funny thing for us where it was like, well, you're either gonna get your period while we're away or you're not. This also happened to be the month that I finally decided that I was going to test out a period, like menstrual cup. So I had just ordered it like a couple of days before I had that first twinge that I could be pregnant. I obviously have not needed it, so it's gonna be like another full year before I can experience the joys of menstrual cups that I've heard all of you guys talk about. Needless to say, my period did not come that weekend, and it was kind of just like the final confirmation, even though I was still like another week out of testing from that point. So the very first symptom that I experienced was actually about 3 or 4 days after we conceived, and I saw it and I said to my husband, I'm pregnant. I had acne along my jawline, and this is something that I have only ever experienced in pregnancy. Even throughout puberty and in high school and before all my periods, I have never gotten like deep cystic acne along my jawline. It's just only ever happened to me in pregnancy, and I had the first zit pop up again like 3 or 4 days after conception. And obviously at that point, there's still so many things that you need to see happen before it's like full confidence, but I definitely did say something to him just a couple of days after because the sneaking suspicion was certainly there. The second symptom that I experienced was waves of nausea. Now, this one is harder for me personally to pinpoint as pregnancy because almost always I have this before a period, and it's also common for me when I'm breastfeeding. If I like don't eat enough food, that I will get that very fleeting feeling of nausea. We had been in a food court with a bunch of our friends just like eating lunch after church one day, and I said to everyone at the table, I was like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up right now. And we were all kind of sympathizing together as girls that feeling is very common to just have come and go of like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up, and then all of a sudden the feeling is gone. But I did have the suspicion in my head that I might be pregnant because of the fact that I already had the acne on my jawline. So it was definitely another one of those moments where I was like, something's going on here. And I do think that Jared felt that way too, but at this point I would not have said that I had full confidence that I was pregnant just yet. Looking back on the timeline of all of this and when those first waves of nausea hit, I am so grateful because it was also around the same time that I transitioned off of the postnatal that I had been taking throughout like breastfeeding and being postpartum with Jude and transitioned back onto a prenatal. I get questions about what prenatal I use and which one is my favorite all the time, and I am really excited to be be working with Ritual on this video, especially because they have an incredible Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale coming up really soon. During the sale, Ritual is offering 40% off of their clean, traceable, and science-backed products, and this is one of the biggest sales that they do throughout the year. Ritual's Essential Prenatal is the first prenatal made traceable with 12 clinically studied ingredients for before and during pregnancy. This prenatal contains all of the key nutrient levels that you need to support a healthy pregnancy. And one of the reasons that I love it so much is as we are talking about that nausea element. When I am in first trimester and I'm having those waves of nausea, I find it really hard to consistently take a prenatal. But the Ritual prenatal actually has a number of things that make it so much easier for me to take. It has like a mint or citrus essence. It's not like a fishy aftertaste or anything that's gonna linger and make you honestly want to throw up. It tastes great, it makes your breath smell good, and another interesting piece about it is that they've actually designed it with a delayed release technology. So it doesn't release in your stomach, it releases in your small intestine, which is the optimal place for nutrient absorption, but it is also very gentle on your stomach, and you can take it with or without food. So you do not have to worry about getting your prenatals down if you are struggling to eat in your pregnancy, especially in that first trimester. Will come to your door automatically through a subscription, so you never have to worry about your pregnancy brain leading you to forget to place another order for your prenatal. The Essential Prenatal is usually $39, but right now it's just $23.40 during the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale when you use my code BethGrace40. This is the best price that I have seen, so if any of you have been interested in checking out Ritual, this is the time to do it. All you have to do is go to ritual.com/BethGrace40 and use the code BethGrace40 at checkout to get 40% off of your first order with Ritual. So thank you so much to Ritual for working with me on today's video. I hope that you guys love the products as much as I do. The next symptom that I wrote down would have been like 7 days out from ovulation, and it was that I experienced excessively oily skin and hair. And this is not the level of oil that gives you like a nice glow. This is not just moisture in the hair. This is like, there is no amount of loose setting powder and dry shampoo that can fix this. At this point, I was having to shower every single day because I would shower and then that night I would find that I would run my fingers through my hair and it just felt gross. Like it just felt like my body was in overdrive when it came to production of oil. And I also remembered this had happened in previous pregnancies as well. Just one of those annoying symptoms for me that I have very early on, but actually kind of fixes itself as I progress into first trimester. I feel like I have a little bit more shine for sure when it comes to my skin and my hair, but it's not so oily that I feel gross or dirty. And so I'm very grateful for that, but it is one of those symptoms that happens for me every single time and definitely leads me to believe that I am probably pregnant. Okay, so at this point, we're still about a week out from ovulation. I've got acne along my jawline. I'm looking a little bit oily. I'm having those fleeting waves of nausea, but I still wasn't completely positive that I was pregnant until this next symptom kicked in. This is the symptom that had me fully convinced that I was pregnant because it came completely out of left field for me, and it was an insatiable and just completely ravenous hunger, and I could not stop eating basically everything that was in sight. I was not experiencing any aversions to anything. It was just this like overwhelming desire to eat. I honestly do think that a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was still also breastfeeding a baby. I was kind of underweight from the point that I was like before my previous 2 pregnancies, and my body just knew that this baby needed nutrients to grow and that I needed nutrients to carry forward. And so I'm telling you guys, it was everything in our house. I was clearing out the fridge, I was clearing out the pantry. I said to my husband at this point, we're gonna need to increase the grocery bill for a while because I can just like not stop eating. And I was having to bring food with me wherever we went, and it definitely solidified for me that something was going on. I was likely growing a baby at this point, and I tried to just honor my body and pay attention to what was happening and eat as much like good and whole foods as I could to meet the need that was obviously happening there. Similarly to that, the next symptom that I experienced was thirst, and this was just like extreme thirst all the time. Some people say that this happens to them while they are breastfeeding, but unfortunately I don't experience that. I definitely have to like force myself and consistently remind myself to keep drinking water when I am breastfeeding. But in the beginning of this pregnancy and in previous pregnancies, I have just been so thirsty, especially at nighttime, which is unfortunate because I was waking up to pee so many times in the night just because I could not stop drinking water. It was almost like within a few minutes after having a sip, my mouth would just be dry again. But this is actually a very common, normal, and healthy experience to go through. And if you have it, you should definitely drink the water because your body needs so much more fluid to actually support the baby circulation, your circulation, and also you are building this house for a baby and it needs amniotic fluid and all of these different things that your body didn't necessarily need fluids for before you were pregnant. So if you are feeling that extreme thirst, keep on drinking. Okay, in terms of symptoms, we are now approximately 1 week pre-positive pregnancy test. And the next symptom that I experienced before knowing for sure and getting that positive test was insomnia. This is one of the most annoying symptoms that I have experienced in my pregnancies. I didn't actually have it in my second pregnancy, but I had it very bad in my first pregnancy as well. And it is again, like right before the test, after the test, and kind of into the beginning of first trimester, I just get the worst insomnia ever. I will be so exhausted, but I will just go to bed at night and immediately be laying there awake and unable to sleep. And of course, because I'm drinking so much water and getting up in the night and peeing, I would go back to bed and lay there and just be like staring at the ceiling. And I know that that's a common thing that can happen because your hormones are changing so rapidly in early pregnancy, and a lot of the times people kind of see that manifest as sleep issues. But another element I think for me personally is also just the anxieties that can come with the beginning of pregnancy, thinking about whether or not the baby is okay and if you're going to be healthy and if everything's going to work out and if I'm actually pregnant, this is going to change so much of my life. Like all of those different thoughts that can come up because pregnancy is such a huge life change. I think that those are some of the things that also contribute to the sleep issues for me. But the thing that I did differently this time when I experienced that insomnia was actually talk to my naturopath about it, because previously I had been kind of just like powering through that and feeling so exhausted. But as you guys know, I have 2 kids at home. I do not have time to be walking around like a zombie every single day, at least if I have a say in it. And so she got me onto a couple of things that helped me just calm down mentally at night, natural remedies that are all pregnancy safe. And I don't know if like the hormones leveled out or if it was that or if it was placebo, but I honestly don't care. I'm sleeping again now, and the insomnia didn't last nearly as long as it has in my first pregnancy, so I'm very grateful for that. But once that kicked in, it was another one of those things that was like, all right, a baby is on the way. I know I said that the last symptom was the most annoying, but honestly, this next one might be the most annoying. And it is that when I am very newly pregnant, I get extremely warm and sweaty. I just like, I'm having to open all of the windows when I'm cooking. I feel like I cannot be wearing clothing. There was one day that Jared came home and I was cooking in like leggings and a bra because I was just so freaking hot, and that has also gone away. I am now able to wear like warm sweaters and get into the coziness of all of that. And maybe it also had something to do with the fact that it was still like pretty warm outside here when I was in that early stage of the pregnancy, but I was just so hot and I was having like postpartum level sweating at night where I would wake up and it was like, I am drenched right now. And so naturally between the oily skin and hair, I was constantly showering because I just felt so nasty. Please tell me that I am not the only person that this happens to. Okay, so the final symptom that I experienced, and this would have been, again, like 1 week out from getting a positive pregnancy test, was cramping. And this is one of the reasons that in previous pregnancies, I have felt like I wasn't actually pregnant, is because I was so convinced that that cramping was the feeling of my period actually coming and that it was gonna happen any day. And so one thing that I am really glad that I have not not done in my last 2 pregnancies is actually take Advil or Midol or something like that for the cramping, because one thing that you may not know, and eventually hopefully a care provider tells you, is that it is not safe to take that type of medication in pregnancy. Typically you're only actually allowed to take Tylenol, and even still I try to avoid taking any type of pain medication in pregnancy when I can. So I'm really glad that I just wrote it out, although it did suck. And I feel like the implantation cramping this time was actually more painful than it was in my previous pregnancies. And basically it's just the feeling of the egg like attaching itself to that lining of the uterus. I don't know if maybe endometriosis has something to do with that being more painful for others than not, but it definitely was that feeling of like my lower abdomen, just this dull and consistent kind of aching pain. And I also did feel that in my lower back as well. So those are all of the symptoms that I experienced even before getting that positive pregnancy test. I know that those are very unique to me. Some people obviously have very different experiences, and maybe you had some of those, none of those. I'm really curious to know what you guys have experienced and the things that have made you think like, I am for sure pregnant right now. So definitely put those in the comment section. But I also wanted to talk about the type of birth control that I use, the way that I was able to even notice that a lot of these things were happening, the way that I knew that I was fertile before getting pregnant. And I've talked about it a little bit before on my channel, but basically what my husband and I use is a method of birth control called the fertility awareness method. So essentially the fertility awareness method is a hormone-free method of birth control, and it's all about learning about the fertile and infertile stages of a woman's menstrual cycle. So a lot of people do this by just taking their temperature in the morning. It's called your basal body temperature, and people will just do that under their tongue with a thermometer right when they first wake up, and then you can actually track that. When my husband and I first got married, I was just doing this on like a piece of paper, and I absolutely hated that method. I also wasn't 100% confident in just having that one parameter being what I used to track fertility of temperature. So what we ended up doing was deciding on investing into an Ava bracelet. So this is what it looks like. It's a bracelet that you wear to bed. You don't have to wear it all the time. It's just for sleep. And I started using this probably about 6 to 8 months after I came off of birth control. I personally had a really bad experience using birth control, and so I started doing the basal body temperature and just trying to learn a little bit more about my body and how fertility worked. And then from that point, I did a lot more research, came across Ava, and my husband and I decided that this is the method that we felt the most comfortable with. So this device is connected to an app, and it tracks basically 5 different physiological parameters that relate to hormones and their fluctuations. The ones that they have on their website that it tracks are pulse rate, breathing rate, sleep, heart rate variability, and your body temperature. So obviously it's a lot more than just temperature, and I would basically just wear that to bed every night, and that helped me to really figure out what my fertile days were in a month. That's how I was able to know that I was 5 days out from ovulation with both of our last 2 kids, because I saw that on the calendar and my husband and I were able to have a conversation from there. There are obviously lots of advantages and disadvantages to this method. I think one of the main advantages is that you just become so much more in tune with your body. You're able to kind of notice what the different signs of fertility are leading into ovulation. While this is a significant investment for something like fertility and family planning, it's such a huge thing. And I know a lot of people that just do like the ovulation strips and things like that, and that works great for them. For us, it's just been nice to have a bunch of different things that are kind of giving us that confidence of where things are at so that we can plan from there. I will say that with fertility awareness method, I'm pretty sure it's like a 77 to 98% success rate, and that's going to depend on a lot of things. It's going to depend on how closely you are paying attention, and if you have something like this, how often you are wearing the bracelet. There were many times that I would completely forget to put this on and just go to sleep and wake up the next morning. Luckily, I was still, because things were consistent, able to have an idea of where we were at in the month, and also because I was better at like tracking what was going on in my body. I had more confidence of where I was in my fertile window, but you have to really stay on top of it if you're gonna do a method like this. I think it's worth it. I think it opens up the door to an amazing opportunity between you and your spouse to make make plans together about the timing of things and what you want that to look like, and just be very much in communication with each other on it. So I personally have loved this method. I have learned a lot about women's health and fertility, and I'm excited to be able to pass that down to our own children as well. So I hope that that helps you guys. I know a bunch of you have had questions about kind of the method that we use, so that is what it has looked for us up to this point. Well, I am going to wrap up this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I wanted to remind you that if you wanted to check out Ritual's Essential Prenatal or any of their products, that now is the time to do it for the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale. Again, if you want to check that out, all you have to do on the weekend of Black Friday, Cyber Monday is go to my link, which is ritual.com/BethGrace40. I'll have that in the description box and on the screen here as well, and use that code BethGrace40 at checkout to save 40% off on your entire order. So thank you again to Ritual. Thank you guys so much for watching. I want to know what your early pregnancy symptoms are. So in the comment section, if you knew that you were pregnant because of a symptom that you got before the test, definitely drop that down below. I'm just so curious to know how it differs for different people. So thank you guys so much. Until my next video, I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys, and I will see you soon.